So appreciate everybody being here. Sam, Cindy, appreciate you both being here. Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks a lot, gang.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody, for taking some time with us this afternoon. Specifically Cindy and Sam for their time. Real quick, I just wanted to mention, especially for those that are in New York, we are super excited that Care Matters 2 dropped in New York about 3 weeks ago, and it's got some really great perks to it over the first generation of Care Matters. And so this coming Monday, the 11th, 2 p.m., we're going to have our official Care Matters 2 New York launch. For those that are outside New York, certainly feel free to join us. It's largely the same, between the states, just the rates differ a bit. But we're super excited about some new enhancements to Care Matters 2 here specifically. And I also thought that I would mention that for any folks that are in the New York, Pennsylvania, even Jersey or Mass surrounding areas, we do have a pretty expansive 6-city LTC Carrier Day Roadshow coming up in June. So first couple of weeks in June, we're going to trek across New York and PA, and we would love to have you join us. All things LTC, so all the various players in the linked benefit and traditional standalone long-term care space will be all under one roof, and talking to you about sales ideas and how to position their products. So we really hope that you'll join us. If you need an invite or link to either one of those, please drop me an email and I'll get it over to you right away. We'd love to have you join us. And then, without further ado, I think I'll turn it over to Cindy. And Cindy, thank you for welcoming Sam, and thanks, Sam, for your time as well.
Yeah, of course. And thank you, Bob. Thank you, Melissa. I see Jennifer on here too. Thank you, Jennifer. Looking forward to spending some time with you at those carrier days myself. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us as well as hear a little bit more about the New York Care Matters 2 training that we'll have coming up on Monday. But that being said, today we're focused on eMoney and MoneyGuide. I think we're going to focus maybe on both or maybe one specifically, but they work pretty similar. We have a special guest speaker, somebody who's a phenomenal resource for us here at Nationwide, Sam Logan. She is a part of our fintech team, over 20 years of experience, does a great job of kind of showing you how to incorporate long-term care planning specifically into those wealth management systems to make the conversation a little bit easier, frankly, when you're talking to clients, kind of put some real figures behind it and show them the true impact that long-term care is going to have on their portfolio. So that being said, Sam, I'll kick it over to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Bob and Melissa, and everyone for joining this morning. So as Cindy said, really today we're focusing on showing the clients the impact of a long-term care event and then how to protect against that. I will be showing both MoneyGuide and eMoney. Just due to the time that we're working with, these will be very high-level overviews of the important areas, what I like to highlight, how we find some of the data that we're plugging into the client's portfolio. But don't fear, I'm not going away. So if you want to have like a one-on-one session after this or dive a little bit deeper, I am still here to support that. My team is actually expanding. I'm actually hiring an additional associate. At the end of this month, will be joining us. So we here at Nationwide are not going anywhere to continue to support you with these solutions. So this isn't a one and done. I am here. Feel free to reach out. So when we're meeting with the clients, the first thing we like to do is kind of establish what that cost is going to look like for them. It's very easy to say, on average, we're looking at, 8 grand a month right now for a long-term care event, what that cost looks like, what they might be seeing in the future. But there's actually some tools available that kind of help you hone in on as close to what I like to call real world dollars as possible. I find if we can get closer to a dollar amount that they might say like, okay, that seems about right, or that's for the state I'm living in, helps with that discussion because we're plugging a real world dollar future projection into their plan and saying, if you do have this X amount of dollar hit a year, this is what it looks like. So before I ever even jump into a client's plan, into either one of the planning softwares, I just like to sit down with the advisor who's helping do this and say, where are these clients living? Or potentially the other spin to that is where are they retiring? So just where you're living today might not be where they're planning on retiring. So we really want to find what that cost could be depending on the state they're going to be in the future. So two ways we have here at Nationwide to get there. The first one is our cost of care map. I know quite a few people have seen this in the past or have used something similar. Genworth has one out there as well. But what's great about this is it really allows you to dive into some details. So I'm going to pick on New York just because Melissa spoke about it. We launched the Care Matters there. Good state to pick on. It tends to fall on the more expensive end with some of the other states out there. So we will pick on New York for today's purposes. When you click on this map, the first thing that I love to point out is actually this option right here where it says state average versus region. For some states, this won't matter. You can just do kind of a state average. Average across the state is pretty similar. There are some states where really drilling into their metro region will change the cost that we are showing them. And one state I love to pick on for this is the state of Texas. If someone is in East Texas, there's a lot more resources than those people out in West Texas. So you will see a swing on the map as far as how many resources are out there and what is the cost of those resources. So if you know where your clients will be living in the future, go ahead and drill down to their metro region. This is just going to show them closer to where they're going to be at and what those costs might be. The other area is right here, cost by period. I leave everything at annual when I'm building out something, or some people like to leave everything at monthly when they're building out a plan. And what I mean by this is drilling into where they're at and showing either the annual or monthly cost. When you're sitting in front of the client and talking to them in their plans and on their illustrations, hone in on the same type of cost by period. So if we're saying annually, the healthcare cost is going to be this much, then I like to say annually, your Care Matters, money coming back to you to cover the plan is going to be this much. And then that way they kind of see a consistent value across all of the platforms rather than going, well, annually it's this, but your monthly benefit amount's going to be this, and we're plugging monthly into the system, but I'm showing you an annual illustration. Just helps the clients with consistency a little bit across the board. Then this is where the fun comes in and we get to kind of dial up and see, well, what are these costs really going to be? When you are projecting a healthcare cost or healthcare event in the future or a long-term care event in the future, a lot of questions I get right now are, what age are we showing those? How long are we showing those? Where's really kind of that window that everyone's starting to fall into? So most people are starting to show long-term care events happening around age 75, 80. There's no right or wrong. I always tell everyone, get some more information from your clients if you can, simply because if someone has a few or quite a few experiences within their own family of maybe some cognitive impairments that have happened to some family members, maybe those started to onset a little bit earlier. So rather than showing an age 75, maybe you show an age 72. On this map, what's really nice is it allows you to dial up. So you'll be able to take your client's current age and kind of project out and say, well, for, this purpose, we're just going to show age 80 onset. We're projecting in 20 years, this is what the cost of an event might look like. But you can get very specific here to try to find what that dollar amount looks like. And then the last piece that's very important is this little dial right here. I love to highlight it because sometimes, unfortunately, it gets forgotten about. But this is really the cost per hour per week. So this is where you're going to sit down and say, for this projection today, maybe I'm only showing you coverage coming into your house or care costs for 40 hours a week. We're expecting someone to be out of the house while maybe they're working, and we need some care coming in while the primary caregiver is out of the house. Or we've kind of progressed to that next step where we need that true round the clock care. Then we want to make sure we dial that number up. What's great about this system, though, and using this map to kind of highlight what that cost could be, is it allows for a range. So you'll see right here, depending on the type of care that is chosen, the range is very vast. This allows us to sit in front of the clients and in real world, real times, I'm going to show you in the plans, change the amount. If someone says, I think 600 grand is too high, I really feel, you're showing me that this is it. I understand that there's inflation and this is a future projection, but I'm more comfortable seeing, what the 503 looks like, or maybe what it looks like if I go into a nursing home. Can we plug that amount in? Absolutely. So how we've built this out allows you to make those modifications as you're doing the presentation so they can really see the impact to what's going to happen to them in the future if they have that long-term care event. This, what I love about this, it's client friendly, client approved, it's digital friendly. You don't have to have a login to Nationwide. So anyone can really go out here and start to project what's going to happen in the future. And like I said, especially if someone's deciding on where to retire, I always tell everyone, show them side by side. We can go to the two little snowbird states, show them that side by side cost if they're really thinking of moving into retirement. That way we can say this is truly the impact of what that long-term care event would be. And then if you have clients that want to go a little bit further than just kind of a high level overview, we also have a healthcare assessment available. What's nice about this is it's a little simple PDF, gives some high level details as far as, maybe what the client currently has health condition wise. You'll notice it's kind of calling out some ones that we tend to see have complications further on in life. And what's nice about this is you fill this out, send it over to us, and then we actually create a PDF for the clients that show them a projection of what future health care costs could look like and what that annual expense could be. But they also dive into long-term care for them as well. So those are the two different areas where you can go to find what I like to call that dollar amount that we want to plug into the client's portfolio. So before I jump into the two systems, just wanted to pause, see if there's any questions in the chat, and then I will jump into the planning software.
Let me take a look for you. Hold on one second. Let's
Thank
see if
you.
I can tell. No further questions as of right now.
Perfect. So now we're going to jump into the planning software. Starting out in MoneyGuide, like I said, I will be showing eMoney as well. First thing I love to reiterate about this is I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. Create the client's base financial plan. And then there's just about 4 additional input areas that have to be completed in order to illustrate the long-term care event. So I always tell everyone, have the base plan in there, build that out, make a copy of it. Let's not make this difficult on anyone. I like to say the easiest way to get there. So we'll do that, make a copy, and then we'll be able to build out what we're looking to show them. What's nice about this is you have the ability to make multiple options. So you'll see I have a couple in here labeled cognitive and ADL. Reason for that is when someone's talking about potentially that long-term care event in the future, I like to say, based on family history or client concern, that might kind of steer what type of event we're showing them. If you just want to show a standard event, we're not pulling in an ADL or a cognitive, we just think some sort of long-term care event is going to happen. Most people right now are showing between 3 to 5 years. So that's a good average of time to show an event taking place. On average, an ADL event might take about 4 years, where cognitives could take about 6 plus. So that's just something to keep in mind that if you are leaning towards the cognitive or there is concerns about potentially cognitive decline, might want to show a little bit longer of an LTC event just to really show them what that impact could be. So when we jump in here, the first place we're going to land is the client's about you. I'm not going to walk through how to set all of this up, but there is one area that I love within the system here that I love to highlight because I keep talking about if the client has concerns about a cognitive issue or if the client has concerns about LTC. Well, what I love about MoneyGuide is it actually has this area right here kind of laid out for us as far as what are your concerns? What is that level of concern? And then how can I help you plan? So for these clients, I like to say they're almost setting the table for me for what I'm going to present next because they're already calling out concerns about long-term care, Alzheimer's, going into a nursing home. So this is where we start to uncover maybe what type of duration of long-term care event we want to show them. And this allows us to say, we've talked about it. I see your level of concerns for these situations. I'm going to show you in the future module what that impact might look like but then how we get protection in place around it. So absolutely love this section. I know as we're building out financial plans, some of the areas we just kind of quickly skip by. Really hone in on this one though. I think if you are getting ready to have that LTC conversation, just to see what concerns they might have highlighted. When you are building this out, like I said today, I'm not going to go into all the behind the scenes details. But there is, as I said, 4 technical areas we're asking for additional information to be put into the financial plan to be able to illustrate what I'm going to show you on the back end. So I love to high level show everyone. The first start is in the goals section. So in the goals, in order to create the modeling in the back, I pull in an extra widget for insurance premium. So we have to pay the money. The money's got to come out of the plan. And then, of course, we have to put in a spot that's going to allow us to model what that LTC event might look like. In most systems today, you can't default to a 0. It now requires $1, but just do $1 as a placeholder. And the reason why is this is going to open up the field later on that we can kind of do that real-time build out with the clients. And that's why I like to leave it at $1 because we might make changes in the background that we don't want to kind of set in place here in the goals. So once those are in there, then we're going to jump all the way over to recommended scenario. And right here, this is where I love to tell everyone, we're so good at what we do. We're at 99%. So as of right now, these clients are what I like to call set up for success. So we're saying if everything that you had planned on doing and your needs, wants, and wishes costs X amount of money with all the investments and net worth you have and everything that we've done, we look good. We're good. We're in a good space. I say if you're in the green to the blue, fantastic. That's where we want everyone to be, but we have to show them the what if. So this allows us to say back in the concerns, we had some concerns about a possible healthcare event happening or a long-term care event happening. I'm going to show you in this model the what if that happens. When I click this and it starts to run, you're going to see 4 scenarios pop up. I like to call this kind of that client gut punch moment where they really see, oh, something's going to happen. If we don't plan for this long-term care event and we take this hit to our portfolio, all those needs, wants, and wishes that we were already able to do, we might not be able to do because as we know, that money has to come from somewhere to cover that event. So now I'm going to show what this looks like. So this right here takes our clients, remember current scenario, everything we had planned, we were good. We were at a 99% probability of success. Everything looked good. They were going to be able to do everything they wanted to do into retirement. But then you'll notice this column right here has now drastically dropped down to 58% probability of success. We've dropped completely out of the green even and are now in the purple. This column right here assumes a one-time 3-year LTC event on only one insured. And this is that visual impact that allows clients to see that these LTC events can drastically change what they were hoping to do in the future. But it allows us to say, but that's okay. We're having the discussion. We have an ability to protect against that. And if we plug in a Care Matters policy into your portfolio, even though you have that money coming out upfront for the premium, knowing that that policy is there to help offset some of the costs of this LTC event, we're now back up to a 98% probability of success. This little dial right here has had more success with clients in some of these presentations I've done than anything we've been able to show them on the map or on an illustration. It really does start to show that impact of what is really going to happen to us in retirement. Now, I love to tell everyone, because I always get this question. Yes, the client's net worth is going to change how far that dial is going to drop. Yes, sometimes the dial is not going to drop all the way into the purple. It might go from blue to green, green to slightly in the blue, but just seeing some sort of percentage drop off of these were all the goals we wanted to do, and now those goals are going to be impacted has been enough to help support clients taking that step towards purchasing a Care Matters policy or some sort of long-term care protection. I had one lady, the dial only dropped by 7%, and she was like, that 7% is enough for me to know I had plans for that 7%. Let's get that protection in place. So what's great about this, the reason I model it this way, it allows them to see visually side by side what that impact is, but what that impact to having that protection in place can do. But as I said, this allows you to make real world on the fly changes. So setting it up in the what if worksheet, everything carries over from their base plan. And now this allows you to start to plug in down here that LTC event cost widget that we showed, allows you to start to plug in a different amount. If the clients say, I don't really feel like I liked the higher end cost, drop the amount down, you can recalculate it, and then it allows them to see the swing in their portfolio. What's nice about this as well, I throw in one additional one because we always have well, what if I bought it and I never use it? Because again, it is a financial impact. There is a premium coming out of their plan to pay for that coverage. I love to throw this in here, and this one shows them purchasing the Care Matters, never having an LTC event, and they're still not being impacted. And that has to do with the hybrid version of the Care Matters because you do have that death benefit left over. So as I said, there was 4 inputs we had to do. 2 of them were under the goals, and that's just getting us the premium for the LTC policy and then the LTC event cost. But then we have to build in the benefit coming back into their plan. So you'll see that we now start to have that $107,000 annually coming back into their plan. But for this final column, the Care Matters does have a guaranteed minimum death benefit if you use what you've used of your plan for LTC benefit. But there's also a true death benefit out there if you never exercise the LTC benefit. So that I love to show people that, yes, you purchased it with the thought of what if something were to happen, but we're showing that benefit coming back into your beneficiaries if you never used it, and it's still not having the impact to your plan that some people might think it does. So this is MoneyGuide. I'm now going to jump into eMoney. Pretty similar looking type setup, but the inputs are a little bit different. If you've worked in both of the systems before, you know that in eMoney, there's a little bit more build out that has to happen in the advanced design, advanced planning section. Like I said, I won't fully go into that today, but I do have ability to walk through someone later what that looks like. So in eMoney, now switching sides, you have the basic facts window. Depending on the version of eMoney you have, it does have a similar section to the concerns expectations section of MoneyGuide. So in here, they call it observations and next steps. I like to use this section when planning for an LTC event to say, my observations have been in our discussions, there's concerns about potential health events in the future, needing to go into a nursing home, having some sort of cognitive event take place. And I always love this next steps because in here it allows us to say, I've seen those, I've done some research, I've taken a look at what that cost could be. And now in these next steps, I'm going to walk you through your plan and what that might look like if you were to have that type of event take place. So very similar in the idea concept of it, of MoneyGuide, but you do have this section available to you. So in this one, we are going to go into the plans section. So if you're familiar with eMoney, there's a lot of different ways we can kind of move around in here. You'll notice under the plans, I have them the exact same ones built out that I did in MoneyGuide. When I start in eMoney, I always start here at the goal planner. The goal planner is going to give us, again, that nice side-by-side view of the impact of an LTC event. But you can always then jump into the decision center if someone wants to see kind of where that cash flow is coming in and out of their portfolio if they have the event and when they start to see the dip in that cash flow. And then all of these are actually built out in advanced planning. So when I click on a goal planner, we're going to get that same side-by-side effect. It's not going to have that area below like MoneyGuide does, where we can make the changes. We actually have to back out, go into advanced planning, and make the changes. But again, it's just a couple clicks, real world. You can make changes on the fly in this one as well if you need to. So now we'll let this one load. And here you see the same thing. So as I said, very similar to how it's looking within MoneyGuide. You have their base facts. As of right now, everything that we were doing, we were at 100% probability of success. Again, this is not saying everything is perfect. This is just saying with everything you've highlighted as a potential future wish, need, cost is being covered by the growth in your plan. But again, we have to say, well, what if? What if we have that LTC event in the future? What is that going to then do to our plan? For these clients, it does have them drop down to a 56% probability of success. Again, just like in MoneyGuide, not every client is going to drop this drastically. Not everyone is going to see this big of a swing. It is 100% going to be dependent upon how much money they have in their portfolio, what their costs are, and what that looks like going forward. I always tell everyone if someone drops into the yellow, that's going to allow us to start to have that conversation. And if they're in the red, it might push that conversation a little bit further. But I also like to remind everyone, don't shy away from the green. Clients might also start to be a little bit hesitant about an LTC cost if they see this 100 drop down to an 85. Because again, that's still a 15% drop in what they were hoping to have there and hoping to be able to do in the future. So I love this. Like I said, I call it my client gut punch in both of the systems. I really think visually for a client, this just allows them to see what that could do to their portfolio. But as I said, in eMoney, you can then very quickly go into the decision center if they do want to see what that cash flow looks like and what those changes look like. You can change it in here for them as well. After I show you this, I will jump back into MoneyGuide. MoneyGuide does give you the option to go into cash flows as well. So I want to make sure I show that. But this does let you start to show the clients, here's where we're putting in the event. This is it projecting, a 3, 4, 5 year event. This is where we start to see the costs really come out of your portfolio. Not going to dive into it today, but we'll kind of let everyone know because I was able to show it in MoneyGuide. When I said there is a little bit more background building, you just have to know when you go into advanced plan, there's going to be some more inputs that have to be in as far as techniques, what we're making changes to. So this is where I love to tell everyone I'm here to help build this out because as you move through the different options that we're showing, there are quite a few things that have to be updated. But this does allow you with clients to also make real world changes pretty quickly once the module's already built out. So let me go back here very quickly though, show everyone again, decision center, cash flow, you can automatically update it over here on the side. In MoneyGuide, you also have the ability to go into the cash flow charts if someone does want to see that. And that's just by hitting explore down here. You can jump right into the cash flow charts and bring those up as well. So both systems are going to allow you to really model what that swing is within their portfolio, but then really show them where that cash flow starts to come out and we start to see that negative impact to their portfolio because of the LTC event. One thing I love to tell everyone when you're meeting with the clients, I love to just err on the side of caution. So even if we show them the smallest cost it could be to them, the smallest dollar amount that they could end up paying, and we might only see a 1% swing in someone's portfolio, it still helps to show them this is a true financial impact. As we all know, this kind of allows them to really see that projection in the future and what that's going to look like. But this is, I like to tell you guys, one piece to your puzzle. You know your clients, you know the conversations that have to take place, you know what will help them kind of understand the need for some sort of LTC coverage in their portfolio. But I just like to look at this as another piece to a puzzle where you can really sit down in front of them and say, hey, we've taken your plan. This is your plan. This is your future. And this is the impact that we could see happening. So I know that's a lot of information for everyone to kind of digest and take in. I will pause for questions, but also I am here going forward if you do want to learn how to model these and build these out in a client's portfolio.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. I found this really interesting. For someone that has never used either program before, I was like, ah,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
starts to make you, then you start to, I will say, I'm not what everyone says the right age to be buying long-term care yet, but even seeing this, it makes you start to think of like, well, maybe I want to buy that sooner rather than later because
It's
there's a big impact that can
really a cool
happen.
tool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. I found some good nuggets in there. I thought it was really, eye-opening, for me as someone that's had many, many, many years of long-term care planning under my belt. At the moment, there's no questions, so we'll take just a
Okay.
quick second. If anybody has any follow-up questions for Sam, please type those into the chat section and I will rattle those off to her. But you must have done a pretty thorough job so far because nothing has come up. And we will let everybody know too that if this was a lot for you to digest, if you're a little newer to the either program, know, as Bob mentioned, by tomorrow or Monday at the latest, on the archive training section of our website, we will have the full playback. So folks can go in there and take a peek and get more familiar. We also can certainly share as needed, Sam's contact information and or Cindy's as necessary. So I think we're good, ladies. I don't see any questions at the moment. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. And thanks again, Cindy, by extension, for being here with us. And we're super excited for our webinar on Monday. Last check, we had over 60 registrants. And I'm sure
Pressure.
and that was days ago. So probably a lot more at this time.
All
So
right. Awesome.
yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. Thank you for having us. And Sam, thank you. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I'm not going anywhere. So just reach out if you want to see a walkthrough. And I can go over the same thing again. I know it's hard in a large group to ask a lot of questions. So if you just want an individual walkthrough again too, I'm happy to jump on a call.
Super. Well,
Appreciate
thank
it,
you so
Sam.
much, ladies, and thank you everyone for taking the last 35 minutes of your day out with us. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Oh, you bet.